Our next speaker exemplifies what it means to take initiative. As an activist, artist, and entrepreneur, she's been grabbing the media spotlight and reflecting back its light on the issues of accessibility for all. She's been challenging norms, empowering individuals, and bringing together new communities in a response to make change. Another hometown hero, please welcome Maayan.
All right. Hi. I'm going to attempt to go off book here. So if I get stuck, I'll just go back over there. Hi, everyone. My name is Maayan. Good evening. I'm so excited to be here today to share with you a little bit about myself, my perspective, my experience with this power of one that we speak of. I grew up with a disability. I was born with a type of muscular dystrophy, and throughout my life, I've often had to build creative solutions on the fly just to engage with my friends, my family, my school, my community. This was a big part of my childhood. And often in these difficult situations, people would look at me with what I kind of understood as these sad eyes. I never understood why the fact that my life presented challenges to them was considered a bad thing, because to me, this is just how I did stuff. In 2007, I went to Barcelona. This was my first trip to Spain, and I was super excited. I had a whole trip planned. I was going to go to these specific sites, and everything I was going to do, I was going to capture with my camera. So we arrived at the airport, and like usual, the flight attendant let me know that they were going to bring my wheelchair up from the baggage. So I'm sitting, waiting on this bench, literally for them to come and deliver my mobility to me. And I'm waiting about half an hour, typical actually. And finally, they bring me my chair, and so we check everything. We check the wires, and we check the wheels, and we check the armrests, and we want to make sure that everything's working. So I sit in my chair, and I flick on the switch, and nothing happens. They broke my chair in transport. Again. The next 24 hours were just this blur of stress and anxiety, trying to find a rental chair, trying to find repair options, negotiating with the airline about liability issues. Even just trying to get to the hotel was a struggle. I was in Barcelona, but I was stuck. I want to tell you that this is the only time that this has ever happened. That every time that I go somewhere, it's super easy and it's casual and I can go and I have full access, but I can't. Because the reality is that I live in a world that actually wasn't built for me. I live in a world where there are millions of places that aren't accessible to people with disabilities like myself. Millions of places that have steps or other barriers that prevent me from doing things like traveling or visiting a new place, or honestly, even just grabbing a coffee in my own neighborhood. And so about 2 years ago, I was just so frustrated with this reality of needing to ask, is this place going to be accessible? Every time that I went anywhere, that I was so motivated, I needed to do something about it. And so I launched Access Now. In a nutshell, Access Now is collecting and sharing information about the accessibility of places. So you could search for a hotel or a store or a restaurant and find out if it's actually accessible for you. Or you could browse to discover places with accessibility features specifically to your needs, like an accessible parking spot, or a ramp, or an elevator. And the way we go about collecting this information is through the power of the crowd. It's all about building community. Every person, regardless of whether they have a disability or not, can contribute to Access Now by sharing information about places that they know in their communities and throughout the world, one pin at a time. To date, we've shared information of thousands of places in over 30 countries around the world. And to me, that is the most exciting part about all of this. Because what began with the power of just one individual has grown to be about many. So here we are. We've got this mission to share information about as many places around the world as we possibly can. And it's huge. And it takes a global village to make it happen. And anyone can contribute. Politicians, school teachers, community leaders, corporations, and each of you here. To me, that's actually what inclusion is all about. It's about recognizing the power of each individual and creating a space in which we each feel comfortable and valued and are given equal opportunity to reach our full potential. It's about creating a culture shift where we can really make that happen. A culture shift that focuses on ability in each of us. You see, we have this understanding of accessibility. We think accessibility is only for people with disabilities. And I want to challenge that notion. Because people actually aren't disabled. It's our environments that are disabling. Just like we use cars to get to where we want to go, or we create new technologies to enable us further, we each benefit from the accessibility that we build in our lives. Curb cuts, electric toothbrushes, those auditory announcements that you hear in the subway and on buses, the captions on TV and when you scroll through Facebook. These all are technologies that make our lives easier. And they're all built with accessibility intentionally. Every time that I've come across a challenge, I've been faced with a question. When I went on this trip to Barcelona, I was stuck. And those first 24 hours, they were tough. And I was not happy. I was stuck. Here I am, I had this whole trip planned out, totally stuck. But what came after that was really interesting. So eventually, we were able to find a loaner wheelchair. And actually, I wouldn't really call it a wheelchair. I'd say it was a metal frame with some wheels on it. We took a hotel pillow from the lobby, and that's how I slowly got around Barcelona that week. I took pictures. I took a lot of pictures. And actually, I think I might have taken some of the best pictures of the streets of Barcelona that I've ever taken. This challenge opened my eyes to a new opportunity. And it's through this challenge that I fell in love with photography. Often when we think about adversity, we think that's a bad thing. That's something that falls on unfortunate people or during tough times. Adversity is something that we should avoid at all costs. It's something that we should sidestep around in order to get back on track. Adversity isn't a bad thing. Adversity can be an asset. Adversity is what adds to who we are. It pushes us to think bigger. And if we're open to it, think about how we can create opportunity through that. It's the adversity in my own life that has pushed me to find new opportunities. And that, to me, is an asset. I've become stronger. I've become more agile. I've become more creative in many ways. And although very tough, it's that adversity in my life, it's those challenges and experiences that have made me who I am, and I'm grateful for that. We're each often presented with these moments where we can say it's too tough. There's just no way I can do it. And that's the moment. That's that moment where we have an opportunity. If we step outside our comfort zone, if we ask, if we push a little bit further than we think we can, we might discover something that might change the world. We have this saying in the Jewish tradition, Ve'afta l'racha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. To me, what I think when I think of this phrase, I think about keeping our hearts and our minds open. And not just to those that are like us, but to those with differences as well. Not being afraid to ask, to question. We're right now working through one of, I think, the most exciting times in our lives. It's a time for innovation. It's a time for new ideas. It's a time to question and ask. At Access Now, we've built a community, and we're working to push down and break through those barriers that have prevented many people from engaging with the world that they wish to empower and enable all people. We're building a movement, in short, a movement that celebrates the ability of all and empowers us to each work together and create that inclusive vision that we dream of. I invite you all to be part of this movement. And what becomes from these little sparks, these individual moments of action, whether it's adding a pin on Access Now or thinking creatively about your own world, your own environments, your own businesses, are they accessible? And working to break down those barriers, we build that power of all, that global vision that can truly transform the world. Thank you.